transition button. Woo! Woo! Spin! I chose that particular transition because it looks like a Star Wars transition. Just FYI. Okay, welcome to my stream today. As I was saying on like my Twitter and that, I was thinking of going over some of the basic countings of Japanese because that's really difficult. It's something you start to learn very early on, and it's something you don't master for a long time. I still haven't even mastered the basics properly. Please don't tell my teacher that. Hello Matthew, hello. How you doing? Okay, let's see. So, where's my little notes so I don't go. Here we go. Alright, let's put chat there. And my notes there. Excellent. Right. So, hopefully you also will be able to see a little bit better today, as I've got a little slight change in my camera setup. But there we go. Let's see how we're going. Right. Counting in Japanese. So much more complicated than in English. Just because depending on what it is you want to count, there's often a different way that you say that number. But let's start at the beginning with your basic numbers 1 to 10. Let's just get those out of the way. They're the very first things you're going to learn. So let's put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so these are usually the very first things you learn in like a textbook or a class, or just even if you're just online and you're looking at resources there or on YouTube or something. So 1, I'm going to do it in Romanji first. Ichi. Ni. Always remember by number 1 and number 2 by saying I have an itchy knee. Use any technique you can to remember stuff. Itchy knee. San for number 3. Yon or she for 4. For 4. 5. Go. This is a thing where sometimes when you're using Romanji, English letters, to write Japanese, it can trip you up with pronunciation, because that looks like go, but it's pronounced go. That's a kind of a, if you're wanting to learn Japanese, that's the main reason for trying to learn hiragana as soon as possible, because the longer you kind of like using these letterings can sometimes trip you up on pronunciation, because your English brain is telling you how to pronounce it a certain way, but it's lies. Okay, 6. Doku. 7 is another one that has two possible ways of saying it. Nana. 7 is your nana. Or shichi. Number 8. Hachi. I'm really fighting the urge to try and write this in hiragana. I'm just too used to it now. 9 can be ku or Q. Slightly longer sound. 10. Ju. Nice and easy. Basic numbers 1 to 10. I'm going to quickly go over that using hiragana. So, ichi, ni, san, yon or shi, go, doku, 7 or 7、8、9 or 9 and 10. Perfect. Ba-ba-da-ba. Sorry, microphone. Right. Nice and easy. I say that, you still gotta memorize them. Okay, so this kind of pattern of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 is a pattern that will come up often in the different ways of counting stuff. We will see this in a little bit once we get to like the second counter that I'm going to show you. But we've got our basic numbers out of the way. Excellent. Now let's move on to the first. So the first, this set here, this is just your basic, you're gonna say the number. Just say the number 3 in Japanese, san. Say the number 6, doku. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Now, this is where we get to our first counter. So this is if you want to say like there are 3 balls in the playground, there are 6 people, or there are 5 cars. These sorts of counting numbers. Now, depending on, as I said, depending on what it is you want to count, you're gonna have to use something slightly different. However, if you're only gonna learn one of these, I would say learn this next one that I'm gonna write out, which is kind of, I just know it as the tsu counter, because almost all of the numbers end with tsu, that same sound. I'm going to write out the numbers again in both. I'm going to write it out both ways, just like I did before, from 1 to 10. And I'm going to do just a couple of example sentences afterwards, just to try and use it a little bit. But I do encourage you to, if you're doing it yourself, to come up with some more example sentences, because the more you try and use it, the better it's going to stay into your head, basically. 1, 2, 3. So this counter, this tsu counter, usually in textbooks, and even like teachers will usually say this is a general counter, and you usually use it for small roundish objects. But because it's kind of the general one, if you can't remember the actual counter that you're meant to use for counting, say, people or aeroplanes or something, default to this one. This is why I would say that this is the best one to try and learn first, because if you can't remember the one you're actually meant to use, just use this one. This is your default. You're going to notice this is quite different from the numbers that we were just using. Okay, let's I'm gonna write them out. So the first one is hitotsu. Second one, futatsu. It's always going to end with this. All except for, I think, number 10 is all going to end with this tsu sound. Hitotsu, futatsu. 3 now. Number 3 is mitsu. So even I myself have to properly remember this. Often when I need to use one of these, so many times I'm just like, oh, what's that number again? And I just stare at the wall for like 5 minutes before finally being like, gonna have to look it up. Hitotsu, futatsu, mitsu, yotsu. If you notice in the what I'm using here, I'm using like double consonants for these T's, 2 T's. Basically, I'll come across it again in the hiragana, but basically this is a slight pronunciation thing where you want to kind of have a little jump in the word. So it's not mitsu, it's mitsu. There's a little kind of gap. And I think of it as in like a musical thing. So if you want to if you imagine, if it didn't have that little gap in it, it would just, to the beat of music, it would just be like mitsu, mitsu. That's kind of it. But because it has that little gap, instead of taking mitsu on the beats, it's like mitsu. There's like an extra beat in there that you just kind of skip over. Mitsu. And the same with yotsu, yotsu instead of yotsu. It's hard. It can be hard to kind of like listen out for it, because obviously speech is a lot faster than a slow beat, you know. So it can be hard to try and hear that gap. Okay, number 5, itsutsu, double tsu. Itsutsu. Oh no. There we go. Itsutsu, itsutsu, itsutsu. Number 6, mutsu. Another one that has that little jump in it. Mutsu. Yeah. Yeah. It will help you keep the rhythm, because sometimes you've got like a word will have a slightly elongated sound. So say like the difference between shu and shu. There's an extra oo beat, so there's an extra beat for that oo sound. Number 7, nanatsu. So nana again. Nanatsu. Nanatsu. 8 is yatsu. Yatsu. 9 is a nice one to pronounce. Kokonotsu. 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 I like that one. 10 is slightly different because it doesn't end with that tsu. Now, this looks like two, as in me too, but it's actually to. To. Another example of why sometimes learning Japanese with these English letters in Romanji can sometimes trip you up with pronunciation. But let's do another quick go through in the hiragana, if I can. Yes. Hitotsu. Futatsu. Mitsu. So that little jump in the pronunciation, when you write it in hiragana, it's so this big curvy one is the sound tsu. But if you write a teeny tiny version of it, that represents that little jump, that mitsu. Same with here with yotsu. Then we got itsutsu. So that's two big ones, so you're not skipping that one. Itsutsu. Mutsu. Nanatsu. Yatsu. Kokonotsu. And to. Ooh, there's a wonky o. There we go. Yeah, okay. Okay, so we've done some counters. Oh, can you see it there? There we go. Yeah, so we've done the most general counter in Japanese. Again, if you can't remember the proper one to use, default to this one. It's what we all do in class. It's your default one. But I did write a couple of example sentences to try and use it. So I'm going to write them out here. Oh, again, just like last week, I have written these notes up that I'm going to do. I've written them up nice and neatly, typed them up, and I will be posting them after the stream. So look out for that if you do want to use them, for anyone who wants to use them. Okay. So my first one was simply, in Japanese I'm going to say there are 5 stones. So start with stones. Ishi. Ishi wa, as for stones. Now we want the number. 5. Itsutsu. Itsutsu. Des. As for stones, 5 there is. There are 5 stones. Nice and simple. Nice and simple. Another one. Okay, so we're going to use this same pattern of saying the thing that we want to count, then then saying the number, and then saying that is it. That's the thing. That's it. So, second one is Doragon boru wa 7つです。ドラゴンボールは7つです。Oh, got my oo there. Okay. The other one I did. Oh yeah, I did another one. So hikari, which means like a light. Hikari wa 4つです。There are 4 lights. A little bit more of an obscure reference there, so I'm sorry. Hikari wa 4つです. There are 4 lights. Nine dragons, 7 dragons, 7つ. Yeah, 7 dragons, that's it. Dragon Ball は7つです. I have 7 Dragon Balls. Okay. So that is the tsu counter. Tsu. Again, it's the general one. It's the one you're gonna use the most. My little sheets of paper. Oh, here they are. Okay. Nice and simple. Now, so we went over the basic counting, just saying the numbers 1 to 10, and then we did the most general counter. Again, if you're only going to learn one, that's probably the best one to learn. But in case you want to learn a few more, I have in total, I did write out another 3. I don't know if another 3 ways of counting things that I thought could be pretty useful for beginners, especially even if you're just like maybe if you're just visiting Japan as a tourist, or you're just doing the basics, so you can only say basic introductory things about yourself. But anyway, I don't know if I'll be able to do them all, but the next one, oh again, sorry microphone, keep knocking into you. Right, I thought another one that we could do is one for counting people. I figured we could do this one because in my head, like if you have gone to Japan as a tourist, you might still need to do something like go to a restaurant, book a table at a restaurant perhaps, or maybe you're with a group of people and you've walked in and maybe the waiter has not seen exactly how many people you are, so you want to let them know, like, oh, well, we're 6 people, in this group, instead of they assumed 2 or 3 or something. Anyway, but that's my logic for picking this one. It's figured it could be pretty handy. Okay, numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, people. So you're gonna start to see the patterns from the other 2 counting ways that we were just doing, you're going to see them in here. So for one person and two people, it's very similar to the one we just did, the general counter. So one person is hitori. That hito at the beginning, hitotsu was the counter one we just did, and this one is hitori. One person, hitori. Two people. Futari. Two people. Futari desu. So yeah, these first two kind of have a very similar look to the hitotsu, the tsu counter we just did. After that, from 3 onwards, it starts to look like the regular counter that we did at the very, very beginning. So the number 3 just by itself was san, and so 3 people is san nin. So that nin sound. 4 yonin. Oh, yonin. There isn't an extra N sound because 4 is yon, but it's not yon nin. Too many N sounds there. It's just yonin. 5 was go, and so it's simply go nin. Go nin. The number 6 was roku. So roku nin. Roku nin. 7 was nana. It's your nana again. Oh, again, sorry. Nananin. You could use, I think, shichinin as well, the other way of saying 7. But nananin is nicer to pronounce. I like it anyway. Hachinin. Hachinin for 8. Kyunin. Oops. Kyunin for 9 people. And if we have the biggest group going off to a restaurant together, junin. Junin. Right, let me go through. Hitori, futari, sannin, yonin, gonin, gonin, dokunin, nananin. Forgive my handwriting. Hachinin. Kyunin. And junin. Oh, question. Yeah, counting is always more fun if you do it the Sesame Street way. Yeah, there is so many ways to count. So many ways. There's also on after the stream onto the social media, I will post links to a website called Tofugu, who is a really great resource for learning Japanese, but for counters, they go in depth. So if you need to know what's the counter for almost any object, for erasers, or what's the counter for paper clips, like they will probably have the answer for you. They go in deep. They go all in. But it's such a great resource for anyone who's learning, and if you're confused by counters, go to them. But yeah, I will be posting that up later. But yes, again, just a couple of basic example sentences for the peoples. Yeah, nice and simple. So, a very common one to say, futari for two people, just going into a restaurant. Futari desu, futari desu. That's all you would need to say if you go into a restaurant, just to let anyone know that that's how many. Nice and simple. Futari desu. Let's do. Where am I looking? Oh, okay. I did a mistake in my notes, but I'm not going to write the mistake here. Actually, I'll correct that afterwards where you can't see. Okay, let's say there are 6 people going in. So, easy people, 6, doku, people, nin, des. Doku nin des. Let's also say that you're going in with like the biggest amount that we've got here. 10 people. Ju nin des. To be fair, even if you go into a restaurant and you just say futari, then they're gonna know what you're chatting about, right? But yeah. Let's do one more. San nin. San nin des. Adding that des thing at the end, that just makes it polite. That's all that's really doing. And we do like manners. There we go. Okay, that's people. That's people. So apart from the first two, hitori and futari, everything else is just you're saying the number and sticking nin on the end of it. That's all that is. Nice and simple. Nice and simple. She says. Okay, we're gonna do another one. So I thought another one we could do is the counter for small animals. Because in my mind, when you're say you're starting to learn Japanese as a beginner, one of the things you learn is how to say basic things about yourself. You know, my name is, and I come from this place, and I have 2 brothers, and da 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 da. You learn to say those basic descriptions about yourself, and a subject about yourself that people like to talk about is pets, right? So I thought, let's do the counter for being able to tell someone how many pets you got, that sort of thing, or how many animals there are. Now this is small animals. There's a different counter for large animals, and there's another counter for birds. But this small animals, this includes cats and dogs. So that's the most common pet, right? So that's what I'm going with today. Okay, what was oh yeah, so I did find out something interesting about this particular counter. So not only can you count small animals, cats and dogs, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, okay. Not only can you count small animals, cats and dogs, but if you want to count how many Godzillas there are, you use this counter, apparently. I don't know why, but you use the small counter for Godzilla. So if you have a trip and you go to Shinjuku in Tokyo and you see the giant Godzilla that's on top of that hotel, you'll be able to point at it and confuse strangers when you shout out loud, "There is one Godzilla!" Anyway, right, let's actually write these down. So this one is useful, as I say, because you might want to talk about your pets. This one does have a lot of pronunciation differences, but don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, she says. Okay, So the basic counter, I'm going to write this here actually. Hiki. So kind of like how on the people one we added nin to the end of everything. We're going to add hiki to the numbers on this one. But sometimes that sound is going to change a little bit. For example, one small animal is ippiki. Ippiki. Again, there's a double consonant here, so you want to have that little kind of like hiccup. Ippiki. Ippiki. Two animals. Mihiki. Mihiki. I think this counter does sound kind of cute. Ippiki mihiki. Three animals is sanbiki. Sanbiki. So sometimes the sound will change to a kind of P sound, sometimes it will be a B sound. But let's keep going, let's go through them. 4, yonghiki. Yonghiki. 5, gohiki. Gohiki. 6 was ropiki. Slight change in the sound. Ropiki. 7, nana. See nana again. Nana hiki. Nana hiki. 8 is hapiki. Another change. Hapiki. Because 8 animals are very happy. Hapiki. Number 9 is Q hiki. Q hiki. And then you have jupiki. Jupiki. Okay. They are a bit different on this one. But where there are an interesting thing about this is that sometimes counters will do this thing where sometimes the pronunciation will slightly change, like hickey to picky or bicky. However, once you go through a few of them, you start to notice a little pattern. So like the sound changes here, they happen in like number 1, 3, 6 and 8. And you will find that these numbers are going to be like the usual suspects. So if there's another counter and say maybe your teacher says like, oh, in this counter there's going to be some pronunciation differences, it's probably going to be one or some or all of these numbers, 1, 3, 6 and 8. They're the ones that are usually going to change. Like if you're going to say 2 of something, 2 never really changes. Very rarely. These are the usual suspects. Yeah, so that's kind of like a little trick for learning different counters. If you know some are going to be pronounced differently, and you want to take a guess at which ones, those numbers 1, 3, 6 and 8. They're always a bit tricksy. Yes, okay, a couple. Oh yeah, let me go through real quickly again. 1 to 10. So, ippiki, ippiki, nihiki, sanbiki, yonhiki, gohiki, ropiki, nanahiki, hapiki, because number 8 is very happy. 8 animals are happy. Hapiki. And Kyuhiki and Juhiki. Oh, ju picky, sorry. Picky. Oh yeah, sometimes 10 will change a little bit as well. Sorry about that. Yes. Ba-ba-da-ba. Right. Now, did I write a few example sentences? Yes. Yes, I did. Oh yes. Number one, the first example sentence, of course, is Gojira. Gojira wa ippiki desu. So this is going to be the sentence that you say when you go to Shinjuku and you look at the giant, you look at the Godzilla statue above the hotel. You can point at it and say, Gojira wa ippiki desu. There is one Godzilla. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. So, E V E V E V what is E V? E V is how you say Evie. Evie wa. 1, 2. I have assistants today. 3, 4. Oh no. 5. And a little sleepy number 6. So Evie wa 6匹. Oops, should be 2 P's. 6匹です. 6匹です. Thank you, Evies. Thank you. Come this way. Thank you. Right, let's see. Another one. The one and only Evie. Famous Evie dropped in on the stream. Next one. Let's do this one. Penguin. Penguin wa 2匹. 2匹です. They are all very good boys and girls. Penguin wa 2匹です. There are 2 penguins. Thank you, Pen Pen. Thank you, Pen Pen. And I have one more. Yeah, okay. One more. 不思議だね. 不思議だね. Wow, who is 不思議だね? Yeah! It's Bulbasaur. 不思議だねは1匹です. There's one Bulbasaur. Thank you, Bubba. So yeah, this is the counter for small animals. So if you want to be saying like, I have, how many cats or dogs you have, 2 dogs, 3 cats, 1 Godzilla, you can use this one. Also, I did also find out that you can count, for some reason, computer viruses using this small animals thing. I don't know why, but I thought that was interesting. Okay. Yes. What are we? Oh, we've gone another for like 40 minutes, and I was only going to be here for half an hour. Oh dear. Okay. Well, in my notes that I will post afterwards, I will have a third one, which is books, which is very important. But that one is nice and simple, she says, because it's most of the time it's just the number plus satsu on the end. So ni satsu is like 2 books. But I will have that in the notes, and I have a couple of extra example sentences there for you. to have a peruse and add to if you want to. Again, if you're trying to learn this stuff, write as many example or say as many example sentences as you possibly can to try and drum it into your head. And again, if you're starting out, just have some very common ones like that first one, that Sue general counter. Learn that one, and then learn a few that you know that you're probably going to use more often than others. You don't have to learn them all because there's like a ton of them, and even my Japanese teacher was like, oh, I understand that it's difficult. It's learning all the counters is difficult even for us Japanese people. And we were like, oh, thanks, that's trying to learn so many. But yeah, just pick some that you know you're probably going to be wanting to either say, or you're probably going to come across more often. Just concentrate on those. And then as you go on in your studies, just you can every now and again add some more into it. But anyway, yeah, that will be kind of it for today. So thank you so much for popping in, for whether you're here now or later on this on Twitch or on YouTube. Hello YouTube. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Good luck with your studies if you're trying to learn this yourself. Oh, I'm definitely not a sensei. I'm just a study buddy. But yeah, thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. I will be back definitely next Sunday. I will pick another topic to randomly go on about in Japanese, or for Japanese, not in Japanese. I'm not that confident yet. But yeah, I shall hopefully see you soon next week, or see you earlier on YouTube. I'll be putting up videos as usual. But yeah, bye for now. Bye bye. Bye bye.